Been a few hours, but it felt like days. Only been days, but it felt like months.
Hey y'all, I hope you guys are having a good day so far. Okay, so in this video, I will be sharing my top 8 books/reads of 2025. You know, unfortunately, I've only read 8 books last year, which was, unfortunate. But these books helped me get out of a reading slump. So maybe these books will help you get out of yours. Or if you want to read it, be my guest. But these are the books that I'm gonna be sharing with you guys to see. I'm going to be giving you guys my review and slash ratings of these 8 books and how I enjoyed it and whatever the case may be. So, here you go. Okay. Last year I started a new book series that I've grown to like really enjoy so far. It's by an author that I just started getting into, and I read a book of hers called Twisted Love by Anna Huang. I put it right here for you guys to see if you know what I'm talking about. I have yet to finish that series, but this series, it caught my eye a little bit more. I've only read 3 out of like the 7 books, and this series is called Kings of Sin, and it's very intriguing, and it's also based on like the 7 deadly sins, which is like you got my interest. I'm interested. Okay, I'm interested. So yeah. So now in the series, the first book of the series is my favorite, and I love it despite it being the first series, and I haven't gotten to give the other books a chance yet. But this is my favorite, and it's called King of Wrath. Okay, it's amazing. I would have to say that this I would have to say that this book is my favorite because of the main characters and how complex they are. Like they have like layers to them, and sorry, I'm getting a little sick. And yeah, I just like it because it gives us layers, and it explains why these two characters work, even though they don't like each other, like they hate each other, which is kind of crazy. They do not rock with each other at all. They don't. Right? And my favorite character in this book would have to be Dante. And I don't know, I just like how, like, I just like how crazy he is. Like, he's so out of it. But it's like, it's good. It's good writing. Good writing. And I just like how who he is as a character fits like Vivian, and Vivian is like the girl that he's gonna be with in the book, obviously. And and another thing I like about this book is that this had the trope of arranged marriage, which I've never read before. I probably did, but I don't really like. I can't. No book come to mind, you know. So this is like kind of like my introduction to that trope, which is, it was done beautifully, amazing. Okay, because it really gave they wasn't messing with each other at all. Like she liked him, but she wasn't rocking with him until the end. They was locked in. So being that this book is my favorite, I'm going to give it a 5-star rating. I know. Look, it got me. I'm hooked. So it's gonna be a 5-star rating for me. So if you want to read this book is like great if you're in a reading slump, and if you just want to read something really quick. This is a really quick book because the author, like the chapters aren't too long. It's like 5 pages long each chapter. It's very quick and to the point. My dog just came in. You know what I mean? It's very quick. It's very quick and to the point. So if you're into that, okay, you should read it now. Okay. This also leads me to want to read, like the series a little bit more. So I was like, if the first one's good, then the second one gotta be good. The second one is King of Pride, which is, I was like, ooh, it's gonna be good, because of the character, like the male, right? You know what I mean? Like the guy, his character is spoken of in the first book, and I liked his character in that book. So I was like, I was excited for this book, but I was kind of, I don't know how to say it, like I was disappointed in how they, well, I was just, I wasn't really feeling it, because like the plot was good, like it was interesting, it gave, friends to lovers, forced proximity, you know what I mean, like, so how would, so that was like the trope of this book, which I enjoyed. It was good, but I will say that like the conflict after like they started to become a couple and things started to go well for them, the conflict really wasn't that serious. It didn't make any sense to me, because if the problem is that you got money and people is dogging you out because you got money, that don't really seem like an issue to me. Girl, if you got it, flaunt it. You know what I'm saying? But I guess homegirl really wasn't. I'm guessing that the girl really wasn't rocking with that. So she didn't want anybody to know that she had money. And when old dude found out, he got in his feelings. He was like, "Oh, how could you not tell me?" Like the conflict, it was very short lived, and it didn't make any sense, and it seemed rushed, which is why I kind of started to not really enjoy the book as much. But I did enjoy the plot. I enjoyed the characters and all of that, but it felt rushed towards the end, because I feel like the author was trying to find like a problem when it wasn't needed, you know. But I still all that to say, it is a good book, and sadly, I'm going to rate this book a 3.5 stars. It look, because I feel like when I read I feel like when I read a romance book and the conflict don't make sense, I start not to enjoy it, because then it feels weird. Like the plot doesn't make no sense, and she tried her best. The author tried her best with this book, but it's not the best out of the series. But it is good. It is good. It's just very, right. So if you want to read this book, you should. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but take what I'm saying with like a grain of salt. Okay, you can read it. Just letting you know, it's a little corny. Okay, so this also leads to me talking about the third book in the series. Now, this book I enjoyed. It gave me the feeling. It gave me the feelings that I felt when reading the first book, and I enjoyed it so much. And this book is called King of Greed, which was interesting. I was like, ooh. And this book, the author did really well writing about a couple that's already, like established. Like they've, been together since college, since they were young. They've been, like for 10 years. So it's like like this couple is married, like big wedding and all. Homegirl's rich, he's poor, but then he got his money up, and she was like, yes, think. You know what I'm saying? But then he got blinded by all the money, and he wasn't really, being a good man. He wasn't being a good husband. He was more, hence the reason why, it's called King of Greed. And I loved it. I loved his, like, I love the story, because we got to learn so much about this couple. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that their names. Okay, his book is about Dominic, and I don't know how to say her names. I don't want to I don't want to like say it wrong, but her name is Alessandra, and yeah, right. It's about them being together for 10 years, and then like their anniversary was around. He's not available like always, but she thought that he would change, and then she realized, oh, I'm fed up with just okay, I'm fed up, and so she leaves him, and he has to fight back for her, like fight back. He has to fight for her again, and it's really like it feels wholesome because then you learn about why he loves her and why he was doing all the stuff that did, and he really wasn't doing it to be a jerk. He was just so blinded by his own like he was so blinded by his like his pride and his greed and all of that, and really wasn't focused on just being grateful in that moment. And I liked it, and it was and another reason why I like this book is because of the trope. This book has the trope of second chance romance, and I love that trope because I found it so like cute. I just like it. I just love anything that has romance in it, obviously, but this trope is like it's something that I really enjoy because like because when I read about second chance romance, because right, but the guy he's always yearning for the girl, and we love that. We love that. Just saying, we love it. And so yeah, I just and this book deserves a rating of 5 stars because it was so good and cute and well written, and it was. And I figured it was gonna go down the same path as the second one. I thought the conflict was gonna be like corny, especially being that it's a second chance romance, so there is room for it being corny, but it wasn't, and I enjoyed it, and I was thankful for it because I thought I thought after the second one I wasn't gonna really want to read the entire like book series. If you hear anything in the background, it's my mom. Okay. Anyways, okay, I thought I wasn't really gonna enjoy the series, but then like me thinking about the first book made me be like, you know what? Let me continue, and I'm glad that I did because I love this book. And if you want to read it, like I said before, these books are very quick and easy to read. So you know what I mean. So like it's very easy to read, and if you want to get out of a reading slump, you can. And also, these books you can read them by themselves, but I highly recommend that you do it in order. You know what I mean? Because that's how I like to read books in a series. But if you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. This book you can read by yourself and you will still enjoy all of the characters and the plots and all of that. So I recommend this book. You should read it. You should read it. Okay? It was like the highlight of my year. Not the highlight, but like kind of in a sense. So yeah. So now this book that I'm gonna show you guys is written by an author that I've grown to enjoy over the past like 3 years, and I've been waiting for this book to come out like ever since I read like the first two. And also this book is a part of a series as well, but it is the last book of the series, and there's only 3 books, so this is like the third one and final one. And I loved it, and I enjoyed it because of the last 2 books. They, like they basically they sort of set you up to read it because like of course And this book that I'm going to present to you guys this is the highlight of my year of last year. I could not wait to get this book into my hand. As soon as I seen it in Barnes & Noble, I grabbed it. And that is Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan. Okay? An applause. Okay, this is amazing. This book is so good. And despite it being so like, like thick, surprisingly, I was able to read this in like a few days. And a few days to me is like a week at most. But I was so intrigued by it because of the last 2 books, I couldn't wait to finish it. And it's just so good. It's just so good. And it's just so good. And it talks about grief, it talks about romance, and it talks about everything under the sun. And it's just, I love it so much. And the reason why I love this author is because she writes about, I love this author because she's a Black author, obviously. Period. Okay. And I don't really read a lot of Black authors. I mean, I want to, of course, duh. But like, this author was like one of my first, introductions into reading about Black romance, and I love it so much because it's done so well. And in this book, it doesn't really talk about just the romance, like between, like about each character and what they have gone through on their own, like despite being in a relationship, despite or like what I mean, like it talks about how they go through trials and tribulations, like within their career and their friendships and the relationships and their family. It talks about all of that. So I love that when reading her books, because sometimes when you read romance books, it's usually so wrapped up about like the romance itself, and you really sort of lose sight of the characters. And I just like that I could read a book where I can learn about the character while learning about the romance. Like, I want the romance to blossom, but I want to learn about the girl. I want to learn why, I want to learn about how her mom is going through all the stuff that she's going through, because, bro, like, you know what I mean? Because she lost her mom, she lost her dad, and her mom had I think it's Alzheimer's or something, and she works all the time. Like, homegirl works all the time. You know what I mean? So she can't really see her mom. She feels guilty about not being around her mother. It's like, it's a whole ballpark of things. And I love it so much because we learn about these characters and how complex they are. And it's not corny. It's, you know what I mean? Because sometimes it could get corny, it could get, like predictable in a sense. You don't want to always read something that's predictable, and I'm glad that I enjoyed this book in a way where, like, every chapter was something new. And I love that. And I love that about this author. So if you want to read this book, you should. And another thing, right? This book, you can read it on its own. You don't have to read the other 2 books to understand this person, because it doesn't really talk about the other girl. It does, but then not really, because it's about her. Oh, girl right here, it's about her. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to spoil any of these books for you guys in case you do want to read it. So if you want to, you should. I highly recommend. I give this book 5 stars, of course. And yeah, also, this book could maybe get you out of a reading slump. It didn't get me out of a reading slump. Well, short of it did, because I was prepared to read this book because I wanted to read the book. But if you really haven't been reading for a while and you want to get into a book, I don't really think that this is a book for you, because this is a heavy book and it's very thick and it takes you a while to read it, which is why it took so long to read it. And also I was doing other things, but you know what I'm trying to say, so be prepared for that. You might not want to finish this book all in one go, and that's okay. But if you do want to read it, I highly recommend. So, okay. So this next book that I'll share with you guys, it's a well-known book. A lot of people have read it, and it is written by like a Black author, and yeah, it's a well-known book. A lot of people have read it. It my first time reading a book this heavy, not this heavy, but reading a book that focused on like that focus heavily on the experiences of black people. And another thing that wanted me to read the book, like a thing that intrigued me to read it even more, is the fact that this book is on like the banned book list, which is ridiculous. And if you want to see the banned book list, I have the picture right here, which is ridiculous. I don't even want to get into that because I might get upset. But it's right, and that intrigued me to read it more. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna read it, and I did, and I'm so glad I did. This book is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, and it's just I just like the the themes of this book because it enlightens how black women women, Jesus, it enlightens how black women are often robbed of their femininity, and it's usually how they're robbed of that within their own community, like within like their families and friends and all that. And it follows the story of Jamie, who is a black woman, obviously, but she went through so many trials and tribulations of her life so young, and her story of how she even came about is so sad because she is unfortunately like a product of rape, and and which led her to look really like really like fair skinned, not fair skinned, like she's not like white, but you can tell that she got a white pappy type thing. Okay, I don't know why I said that, but it's the truth. And it also like and it also and that also had me learn about was that her grandmother and her mother and herself went through, because it went down to generation to generation to generation, which is like the truth of how nowadays, you know what I mean, like throughout the families and stuff, and the trauma of that, like all of that basically. And it also highlights like the trauma that they had to endure like during this time, because this book, it sets in like the South, so we already know how that goes. And it was just a really good read. It's very heavy, very heavy. So if you do want to get into black literature and you're intrigued by it, and also if you just want to read a whole bunch of banned books, because they are being banned, which is ridiculous. If you do want to just do that entirely, then this is a great book for you to start reading. If you do want to read it, it is heavy. It deals with topics of rape, of like domestic violence, of slavery, addiction, the whole, and also it's just a lot. So if you want to read this book, I highly recommend that you should, and I think that you would enjoy it if you do want to read it. And obviously, I give this story a 5-star rating, and I really want to continue to read a lot of black literature. And yeah, so if you want to, if you that journey with me, I think you should. So yeah, y'all, read this book. It's amazing. It's really amazing. You would not regret it. So yeah. So this next read I'm about to share with you guys, it's a comic book. It's not a comic book. It's a common book. A lot of people have heard this, I'm sure, and it is also on the banned book list. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to read it. Of course, I was inspired by online and stuff. So, right, so this is like the first of the banned books that I have read. And also, I read this book for school. I mean, like, how when you read a book for school, you're not really reading it, you're just reading whatever you have to, just to do the assignment. That was me. That was me. So I never got to really read this book for, like, my own, like for my own, for my own enjoyment. So, yeah. And this book is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And this book is heavy as well. It deals with racism, and it just deals with racism. That's basically it. But it is a book that highlights the racism that Black people were subject to in the South. It has like and it's also about a white lawyer who defends a Black man who's being accused of rape by a white lady, of course. We already know how that goes. And unfortunately, I learned that the man died. I learned that the Black man died, and I honestly, I think I knew that when I was in class, but I don't think I really read. Keep in mind, I never really read the book, or really was like focused enough to really be like shocked by it. So when I read that he died, I said, "What you mean he died?" And it turns out that the girl was lying, of course. It's just, it made me upset, and it rubbed me the wrong way, because the N-word is in this book. So if you want to read this book, beware of the N-word, okay? That they said the ER in this book, okay? Nigga! Let me not. You know what? I'm gonna cut that out. But this book is written in the perspective of like the daughter of the lawyer. So it's written in her eyes and her perspective, and how she learns about, about what's going on. So that also makes the story very dark, and also have the story be very funny, because it's about a girl going through her life, and she's young, whatever. So she's like 9. I think she's around 8, 9 years old. Like, she's young, and she's obtaining all of this information, and it's just like, it's heavy, but it's funny, and it's like, you know what I mean? So if you want to read this book, I 100% think you should, because it also highlights how things were in the South. And I think you should also, and I also think you should read this book, because how America is right now, and how they just want to erase what happened in the South, because they don't want to take any, they don't want to suffer any consequences. So I think you should read this book if you're able to read it. So yeah, I obviously give this book a 5-star rating. It was a tough read for me, but it was good. And if you're in a reading slump, this isn't a book I would recommend. Because I don't know. Because if you're in a reading slump, this is going to be a very tough book for you to get through. But if you're not in a reading slump, and you want to just read books that are, that are part of the banned book list, then I suggest you read this one, because it's really good. So, yeah. This next book is going to have us dive back into the romance genre. It's a little bit brighter, whatever the case may be. It's a little bit more fun. It's not all sad and dark and so sorry about that. But this next book, it was a read for me that got me out of my reading slump, obviously, and because it was very quick and easy to read. It was fast. It was very interesting. And what pulled me into reading this book was, of course, like the cover of the book. It was like, oh, okay, So I'm gonna show you. This book is called The 7-Year Slip by Ashley. I don't know if it's Poston or Poston. I don't know. I'm sorry, girl, if I messed up your name. But I enjoyed this book because it gave me like it gave me like a whimsical feeling. Like it made me feel like, ooh, magical, cute. And it does have a magical element into it, being that, since the title, it goes back 7 years into the past and into the future, and it's just it's really good. And you know and also, like, despite it being a romance book, I can't quite figure out the trope, but it's pretty good. Despite it being a romance book, it deals with it deals with grief and also and also self self identity. It deals with that, and also deals with suicide. Yeah, so it deals with a lot of heavy things as well, but it brings you, it makes you want to read it more because of the whole, it going back 7 years and coming back into the future, going back and forth. So it makes you like, oh my God, so that happened 7 years ago, and this happens after. Oh my God, it's good, and it's good and it's enjoyable. So yeah, and it also followed this girl Clementine, who rent the apartment. She 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 moved into this New York apartment that her aunt lived in, but her aunt sadly died. She committed suicide. I'm not sure if she committed suicide. I kind of forgot. I'm not gonna hold you. But, so, you know what I mean? So she's still grieving from that, but she loves her aunt. Her aunt have a really nice relationship. So she was like, I'm gonna move in to feel closer to her. And then the very next night after her first night living in, she's, in the past. Okay, and she learns that she's not the only one in this apartment, because apparently 7 years ago, her aunt rented out the apartment to this guy who, old girl is like, you kind of cute. I think, like she, so, and it also led to them having a great bond, and also it gave, like, this trope, as I'm remembering the plot, it has, like, friends to lovers, and I would say forts. I would say them being like they have to be in that same apartment because there's no way for anybody to leave. And also, when he leaves the apartment, it's the past, and when she leaves the apartment, it's the like when she leaves the apartment, it's the future, and she tries to find him in the future. Like back in her time. So it was just crazy, and it was good, and it was interesting, and it was cute, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed how cute this book was. So if you want to read it, you should. And this also can help you get out of a 7-year slump, because immediately you're just
Y'all, I've never read in slump.
intrigued by the fact that, you know, it goes in and out of the past and the future. So yeah, it grabs your interest that way. So if you wanna read it, I think you should. So yeah. So this last book that I'm going to share with you guys. This book is a book that I really enjoyed. I really liked it, and it's not a typical book that I would normally pick up and read because I usually read romance, and this had romance in the book, but it wasn't its main like point. It was more of like a part of the story. It wasn't the entire story, and this book is Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it's so good, and it reminded me of the book, not the book, like the film Challengers. I put it right here. I love that movie. I enjoyed that movie, and if you've seen that movie, this is sort of like in like it's like about like guy. It's about the girl. So think of it like that if you want to read this book, or if you've heard of it. This book talks about old girl, right? It talked about her career, and also how in her career she ignore that. I'm trying to. It also talked about in her career how she huggles with her ego, because she has a big ego, and she is a tennis player, so she's like a, you know what I mean. And the reason why it's called, you know, Carrie Soto is Back, because she comes back after another player, a new player, basically is on the verge of breaking her record, and she couldn't have that. That's how big her ego is. She doesn't want anybody being better than her, and she wants to be perfect all the time. And I would in a way, because we all want to be perfect. We all have this, this feeling of anxiety to always want to be the best at everything. But this character, she's very complex, and I liked how we dove into her character rather than it being about romance. Because a lot of the times when you read a book about like a woman and any aspect of her life, they always want to focus on like her being married, or her wanting to get married, her wanting to have kids. She didn't want any of that. That was literally the back burner her whole life, because her whole life she'd been about tennis, and that's all she's ever really wanted to be about. And it was good to see that, because she was very like she was confident, a lot of pride. She was confident. She was ambitious. She had like you know what I mean. Like, she always wanted to do better, and I like that about her character, and because that also showed that like there was something like like great about her as a person, which also dwindled into how bad she was as a person. She wasn't bad, but she was, like she wasn't. She seemed as if she wasn't the best person to be around, and it also showed how she had layers, and she was, she's like a complex, woman, and in her field that she's in, she is a tennis player in a male-dominated sport. That's like a male-dominated sport, and it was great to see, like, oh wow, like she's doing it, she's kicking it, despite how there's people basically playing on her downfall, and she said, basically, you know what I mean? And I love that. And this book also deals with that, and it also deals with grief, and basically like learning how to calm down. And sometimes things aren't always that deep, and you can let things go. You don't always have to have things your way. And that was like her biggest issue, because that led her to not being in a relationship, that led her not seeing the bigger like picture. And she learned about it. you know what I mean? Obviously, she went through all that and she learned about herself and all of that. And it was so good and it was written so well. And I enjoyed this book because this was something that, this was a genre that I haven't yet to read. And it was so good. And I loved it. But unfortunately, this author is His Highness. And I do not support that. I don't support that. So, unfortunately, I will not be reading any more of her books. I do have one of her books that I read before this. And after I got this book and I read it, I learned that the author was indeed like a Zionist. So I was like, that sucks, because I wanted to read the other book. But I guess I'm saving my coin. Okay, thank you. So, yeah. So, but if you want to read this author, try to find the book online, because that's the better way. So that way you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to give this woman your hard-earned money. So just saying. But it is a good read, and I'm really not sad, but I'm kind of like that I can't really, I can't really read more of her work. It's not that I can't, I won't. So this is a good book. I give this book a 5-star rating because I liked it. But that's just all you're gonna take it from me. And if you have read this book and you have the book already, go just read it. Might as well. You already got it. But after that, don't read her no more. Okay? Thank you. So so that's all the books that I have read in the year of 2025. Unfortunately, it was only 8 of them, which is kind of, kind of sad in a way. But not sad, but kind of like, like, damn, girl, you only read 8. Look, okay, at least I tried. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, so that's all of my top reads of last year. And if you want to read any of these books, I highly recommend that you do so. If you want to be a reader, or if you're in a reading slump, or if you just want to try something new and read a genre that you've never read before, you know what I mean? And I think you should read this book. Not this book, these books. Sorry. So yeah, I enjoyed reading them. It was a great experience for me, and I hope it will be a great experience. It will be a great experience for you guys. Okay, so yeah, so that wraps up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you take what I said with a grain of salt, because these are just my reviews and how I and how I want to read certain books. So if you're not really a fan of these books, you don't have to read. I'm just sharing my I'm just sharing my my views on these books, on these novels. And if you have any books that you would like me to read, please comment them down below. And if you want me to do these videos, please like and comment and subscribe. You know what I mean? Please tell me that you like the book. Please tell me that you want me to read more books. And if you do read any of these books, please let me know in the comments. Okay? Thank you. It's much appreciated, babes. Much appreciated. Anyways, that would be the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did enjoy,